hop on here with a live stream as we're looking toward some threats for severe weather over the course of the next few days here. Thinking is that the most significant of those threats probably comes in some form or fashion on Saturday, and we're expecting that timing to possibly one that does include multiple rounds of severe weather on your Saturday, pre-dawn, and then obviously post-dawn. So the combination of those two things, obviously a concern. We'll give folks a few moments here to kind of get up and going as we get this chat going. You might go ahead and share this, by the way, because for whatever reason, sometimes Facebook isn't exactly pulsing these out like it used to before. So appreciate that. Hi, Ivan and Stuart. Hopefully, y'all are doing okay. As we can see, some of that comment that we'll kind of go back and forth on this here. So let's go ahead and kind of talk through again the overviews. You can see behind me there, the most significant severe threat starts as we look into Friday night and then also into Saturday. Let's go ahead and bring that up full for you for a moment here. And so the locations that we're concentrating on that, as you can see, really all locations of the WTVA 9 News viewing area involved in the Friday night severe weather chance. And again, by Friday night, this could be well after midnight. This could be more Saturday morning, likely more Saturday morning, with multiple chances there into the day on your Saturday. Speaking of, as we kind of look ahead, that severe weather threat as we go later into Saturday, and we do expect some amendments, some adjustment on the locations of some of these things here. But certainly looking like we're all involved in some form or fashion in that severe weather threat again into and through your day on Saturday, unfortunately. And really, we're on the developing end of what could be a more significant threat. So let's kind of work our way through kind of what we're looking at here. Before we get there, have to briefly mention, because again, it is a nearer term issue, that we do have a severe weather threat for your Thursday. And so that's kind of the number of things that we're tracking on this. This initial threat's a quick moving wave. The ones for the weekend a little more significant, obviously, in the way they're all kind of set up here. So we're going to kind of get going with the time change that we had. We have less and less information than what we had a couple weeks ago, because that time change, while it's great for keeping the sun out later, that also means all our projections come in an hour later. So we have a little less to work off of than what we've had on previous versions of these discussions. But I think there's still enough evidence here to say looks rough for sure. So let's kind of go on the wider shot here. First and foremost, the next 24 hours, not particularly rough. For watching that stuff back out there into Texas and Louisiana, fairly well depicted here on Storm Track Doppler radar. As a fairly kind of a long, elongated sort of a batch of showers and thunderstorms there that we are watching. And projections only doing a so-so job of what we have out there at this moment. Look, I can bring in kind of the most up-to-date of those different projections here for a moment. And so that would be what we call the HRRR or the HER. And so the evening version of that, the short-range version of that, you can see doing a pretty decent job on where it's kind of depicting some of that activity. Notice as the majority of that kind of dying out down toward Jackson, as it kind of wait for a moment here, because this is the latest stuff, so it's kind of populating cloud cover as it goes, and then sort of regenerating some over top of us. Let's bring it in a little closer to kind of talk about that. But this does not show a ton of activity directly over top of us, and honestly has things getting a little stronger as they work their way into Alabama. As you can see, quite a bit more development there. So our projections have really kind of backed off of this round. I'm going to show a slightly different one. Again, this is all kind of the newest stuff coming in as we speak, so it'll take it sometimes a minute here to sort of populate in the data. But you can see this particular one here does have a few more thunderstorms in the early morning time period of tomorrow. I'm showing this about 6 a.m. or so, and you can see quite a bit of cloud cover, but a lesser quantity of storms. This is not obviously our main threat, but it is the first threat, so that's why we're talking about this first. And so this projection is a little more aggressive, still waiting on the latest data to come in. Even then, that is some wind gusts. That could be a few hailstones. That's not a significant severe weather threat, but obviously worth mentioning and monitoring. And certainly, let me kind of give you another shot here. This, I don't know if this is all the way updated either, unfortunately. So you'll notice, see, this particular version doesn't have quite as much. So my projections go in both directions. Either way, some spotty showers and thunderstorms tomorrow. And as we kind of mentioned again, wind gusts would be the main issue with that. The main story that we are watching then is what then happens beyond tomorrow. And in particular, as we look toward, look toward what's going on for Friday night and Saturday. The way we'll look at that is using pattern tracker, which allows us to look in the upper levels of the atmosphere here. And so you'll see a very pronounced dark kind of blue area there, storm system that kicks its way into the plains. That storm system there, you can see there's kind of two punches to it, the initial wave and kind of a secondary wave there. The fact that we get two punches means we get two chances, and we get time for moisture to possibly come back in, and that then elongates a threat for severe weather that could include not just damaging winds, but tornadoes, multiple tornado chances, and potential for perhaps a significant tornado threat as well. One way we look at that, often look at that in this situation, is using fuel CAPE as a way in which we show that. I'm going to check and see if on here, unfortunately, we're just now starting to get to where we have some of the higher resolution projections, but they're not all the way out on this. So let's bring this in a little bit closer here for you. Um, and so I'm looking back out here. This is, tonight, and you can see there's some of that fuel back out west, but we don't have as much in the way of strong winds with this. So while we have some of that fuel around for tomorrow, it's not as impressive as, say, some other projections could typically be in this situation. So not a big concern there. The concern becomes much greater as we go into Friday. Here's why. Notice how we have stronger jet stream winds aloft. That helps if it's at the right angle to get rotating thunderstorms to occur. Plenty of those aloft. I kind of took it off for a moment. I want to put the jet stream, those strong winds, back on. We also have some divergence, diffluence technically there. Things that indicate the ingredients are in place for active weather. The big question on Friday, and in particular Friday night, is not necessarily even do we have enough fuel or do we have enough shear, but do we have something that's going to really initiate the thunderstorms and get them to go? That remains kind of the bigger question as far as that is concerned, whether or not we have that big lifting mechanism to really kind of get thunderstorms going and make them strong to severe. Um, and so that's kind of what I'm looking at here. As you'll note, there's plenty of fuel, and that does mean that there's an extended chance for severe weather Friday night through the early part of Saturday. The concern for Saturday, though, is as we go into the day, and really this timing is a little slow on this, and this isn't the highest resolution modeling. We'll have better modeling at 10 o'clock. That is one of the things we're working on. But that we still have plenty of fuel continuing into Saturday afternoon and evening, and a fairly strong push of winds aloft that's going to come right over top of this system. That means another threat and possibly a more significant severe weather threat into Saturday as well, with ample fuel, ample pretty much everything it takes to produce severe weather and tornadoes, unfortunately kind of lining up with that. So another way in which we can show this probably in a decent way, again, we're waiting on our highest resolution modeling to come in as we speak, but this is one we call the European midday run of that projection. And that data is kind of populating in here as we speak. So let's get it all in the model for a moment. Doesn't show a whole lot with tomorrow's activity. We do have some showers and thunderstorms, as you can see, morning through midday. And again, a couple of strong wind gusts with those as they kind of move into Alabama, and we're likely to have issues there. Here's what we're watching though as we go into your, this is again, after midnight, pre-dawn, early Saturday morning. You can see greatest number of those storms back west. I do think it's a little slow on what it's depicting there. But one of the takeaways I noticed looking at this here is that we have ample thunderstorms kind of developing ahead of that line. And one of the questions is do we just have this huge blow up of thunderstorms that really kind of taps into a lot of the fuel, leaving less for the afternoon round on Saturday? Notice storm tracker here, and again, this is the Euro projection that we're looking at, has a lot of thunderstorms around through late morning and the midday, and then continues kind of developing them into the afternoon, telling you that we have plenty of fuel available. Now, if there's enough of the way the structure of the atmosphere is set up to where we can limit that initial blow up of thunderstorms, that would lead to a more developmentally unfavorable for you and I situation where we get more of the stronger tornadoes out of this into the afternoon. So positioning and some things, we're about to get into those higher resolution models within the next really 12 hours or so. We start getting more of those in 12 to 24 hours, and that gives us a much better idea on what we call the convective allowing models that basically do produce future radar. We're about to the point where we're starting to see some of those projections do that. But what we're seeing here is sufficient enough to back up as we've talked about kind of last couple of days, what the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma has for us. Let's go back here for a moment. Let's talk about this. So this says Friday. And you might have noticed that the first graphic I showed, I'm going to go back and force you to go back to that one here, it says Friday night. For us, it's probably after midnight. Almost all of our storm potential, significant storm potential, probably aligns in some form of fashion with Saturday, whether it is after midnight into pre-dawn Saturday morning, or during the day on Saturday, or into Saturday afternoon and evening. And the fact that I'm casting such a wide net on this speaks to two things: the amount of fuel we should have available, which should be plentiful, which has not necessarily been the case so far this year, and the overall strength of this storm system and its ability to try to generate thunderstorms over that time period. For us, the greatest lift ability to kind of develop thunderstorms arrives closer to the we'll say midday to early afternoon time period into the afternoon on Saturday. Now, where is this all positioned out by that point? That's where, again, the Saturday severe weather risk, the reason it shows up like what you see here, is because, and I'm going to draw on this here for a moment, if you give me a second to kind of telestrate on this. Hold on, I am missing, well, let's just go ahead and use the big arrow here to show it. Somewhere along kind of the back side of this here, there will be a point where there is plenty of fuel available, and we get the potential for strong tornadoes. A lot of our projections kind of have a pooling of that most significant moisture kind of on the back side of this higher level 3 risk that you see here. We're too early to refine those kind of characteristics, but the unfortunate thing is that it does show, again, somewhere very near our area, if not in our area, a significant enough amount of moisture and instability and heating and strong winds aloft that isolated strong tornadoes are a possibility with individual storms that kind of get ahead of any kind of line that tries to develop. So with that fact, this is a significantly greater severe weather risk than really the chances that we've had lately, where it's like, okay, are we going to maybe, or we're going to maybe. No, this one's definitely a more significant severe weather risk. And in a lot of ways, it is our typical significant severe weather risk that we see this time of year, if we're going to see one. So there's more than a decent chance that this is one of our better severe weather risks, greater severe weather risks for the spring season. So this is, again, timing out Saturday, and really all day Saturday, the potential is there. Now, obviously, that is something that we are going to refine as we get a little closer. Um, but but the big headline is that there are multiple significant chances there. Let me see if I can, do I have it built in here? So here's our threat graph that we have on the air. And for those of you that watch us consistently, this is a graphic that you're kind of used to seeing. I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit bigger, just so that, frankly, I think it helps to have it bigger. Ooh, it's maybe a little too big. Okay. Um, so this largely comes down to our confidence in potential threats that we're going to have with this. And as you can see clearly, we have a fairly high confidence level that in that orange risk area, especially during the day on Saturday, that we're going to have a fairly significant chance for tornadoes and the potential for strong tornadoes. Now, those don't necessarily guarantee that they're going to align over top of us. But let me say, I'd be very shocked if Mississippi, Alabama, some sections of Georgia make it out of this event without at least one pretty strong tornado, and more likely to have a multiple in that category, unfortunately. I wish I could show you exact spots. That's just not the way the science works at this time frame here. At this time frame out, we're Wednesday at the point we're talking about this. We're talking late Wednesday, late Thursday, late Friday, late Saturday. So we're still, in some spots, there will be tornado producing thunderstorms ongoing at this point Saturday evening. So we're still a better part of around 2.5 to 3 days out. Tomorrow, Thursday, that's when we're really going to start nailing down locations a little bit better, because that's just where the science gets a little bit better and we're able to kind of see some of those features. I say all that because if we were to look, at the features that are causing this, let's see if I have it in here. My sat rad's all the way down there. Um, Hold on a moment. There we got to go out a ways to be able to see some of those. Give me a moment here to kind of pull that up. Extras. Water break will probably be the easiest way. I'll take a moment here to kind of populate in the data. Um, So this is kind of system number one you see there on the planes kind of kicking through. And then there are multiple waves and then other shorter waves that are involved in the system back toward the west coast of the United States. That's, part of it. There are other components that kind of go through the pattern there that cause the active weather. But it's over top of the ocean. So once it moves over top of land, we hit it with uh, you know, when it's over top of the land, we actually hit it with weather balloons. We can sample those upper level winds a lot better right now. So there's those inconsistencies. But in saying that, our projections are extremely consistent about the fact that we're going to be talking about a significant chance for severe weather leading into early Saturday morning. I show Friday night here, and that's maybe more significant up north of us for locations back out up into up into the plains. We're more conditional on what exactly forms Friday night. If we were to see a lot Friday night and then again the pre-dawn hours of early Saturday morning, I'm hopeful that that would use up some of the fuel, maybe shift over all threats south and east a little bit more, because unfortunately, as we go into Saturday, um, the daytime nature of it, the added time to add moisture, um, the strong upper level winds kicking in, all are pretty classic for a severe weather outbreak across this part of the country. And by this part of the country, the locations you see there in the color. And again, if you're looking at this and going, well, I'm in Bruce, I don't have to worry about it. Vardaman does, in Calhoun County there because it's yellow orange. Don't get attached to the exact locations along those lines. That's a recipe for something to not go well for you. Speaking of the right recipe, let's make sure that now we have those things. We're checking to make sure our weather call is up to date. More information on that, wtva.com/weather call. I always push this because there are two things to keep you safe in severe weather: knowing when to go and knowing where to go. When to go fastest, weather call is the fastest way. Appreciate what we do. We do a great job. I think we put together a pretty good product. But the reality is that weather call is going to happen seconds to minutes before I can give you the information myself because I'm a human processing information. Sometimes we'll obviously have alerts on air that make a difference, but for your personalized tornado warning to know you need to go to safety, weather call is the best way. And of course, it's one way, and we always recommend having multiple layers of protection. The weather call folks have always said layers save lives, and they do. Because again, if you have multiple layers, multiple ways to know, the weather app, weather radio, code red, FEMA app, it's a lot of those things involve the phone. Those phone calls obviously break through the distractions. So that's why we always recommend them there. And be planning ahead, thinking ahead on how you will shelter if you need to shelter from severe weather, because many of us uh, will have that potential. So again, be looking at those tornado safety rules. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can clear that off the background there, so it's not quite as distracting with that layer there, but be thinking where's that sturdy structure that you would go, because I think making those plans now for where we will be on Saturday, and we'll be able to refine better how the severe weather threat for Saturday night, excuse me, for Friday night will evolve with this. We'll be able to kind of break that down a little better over the course of the next couple of days here as we can kind of, nail down the timing with that. But there's definitely a Saturday night component of this. Excuse me, Friday night pre-dawn Saturday component that we need to be planning for. And then as we go into Saturday, midday and afternoon, that's probably the primary threat. In either case, we need to have a safest place that we can go there. So with that in mind, be preparing ahead, you know, things to keep in mind. Obviously, your phone charge, we're going to go through a couple more cycles with that. Not as big of an issue here, but just be thinking ahead as we get closer and avoiding unsafe places when the time comes. I put this up, and this will be the last thing I'll leave you with, and I got to get ready for the show as I try to kind of clean up what we're going to show here for our 10 o'clock show. But there's a shelter list. You kind of see it above me right there at WTVA.com. If you take your phone out, you put it on the camera mode. I'll just show you. I just put this on the camera mode here on my phone. And I zap it just on my screen here and press the button. and it, logs me into my phone. That'll immediately take me over to our local shelter list at WTVA.com. So if you're looking at where you will be, say it's your house, knowing where you might be on Saturday and that Friday night and the Saturday, be thinking about where your tornado shelters are if it comes to that. And hopefully it will not be an issue in those pre-dawn hours of early Saturday morning, but I do think that in some cases it will. Um, that's not our highest confidence in this, but it is something there that we are watching. So be planning ahead, be getting within steps of that safe place, so that when the warning is issued, you're just steps away, not going long distance. And again, this is Friday night and Saturday in particular, multiple waves and a very strong storm system that we are monitoring with this. And in saying that, again, tonight at 10, we'll talk a little bit more also about that severe weather threat that is in place for your Thursday. We do have one for tomorrow. It's just more limited, more likely to be wind, and not something we're terribly impressed with. Okay, we will see you coming up at 10 o'clock on ABC and NBC. So keep it here for the very latest. Appreciate all y'all, and hopefully things will go okay. But prepare now because this does have potential to be a pretty significant severe weather event. And I appreciate again the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters there. They'll be out. We have a discussion where we watch back and forth what they're doing. Are going to be out in force to make sure they do what it needs to take to keep you safe, as will our folks here at the television station. Okay. We will see you guys at 10 o'clock on NBC and ABC.